Hey guys, it's Brandon. Thought I'd go over a game that I just finished playing literally about 10 minutes ago. And I thought I'd show it because it was a pretty exciting game. It was actually a Queens Gambit Declined, but very unusual Queens Gambit Declined, where we were both pretty much just going after each other's kings. And it was sort of a race to see who got there first. So I thought I'd annotate it real quick. So I had the white pieces. I played my usual d4. He played d5, c4, e6. This is the Queen's Gambit Declined. Knight c3, knight f6. This is all pretty standard theory. More common actually than knight to c6 is first bishop to f7, because of this would prevent the exchange variation with takes, bishop pinning the knight, and then white would play for f3 and e4. And this is a pretty strong system with the Queen's Gambit Declined. It's got like a 70% winning percentage for white. I don't know it that well myself, and I tend not to play it. But I do play the exchange, and usually black plays c6, and I play for b4, b5, the minority attack in the Queen's Gambit Declined usually. So none of that happened in this game though. Bishop g5, bishop e7, still standard, e3. My opponent played this move a6. This is a bit of a time waster, and by a bit I mean a huge waste of time. He should just be getting his pieces out. Knight to d7 is common, castles, stuff like that. I have no intention of going knight to b5 at any point, well, at least in the near future. So just getting the pieces out. h6, this is a pretty common move. In some variations, it's best for the bishop to go back to h4, f4, and put pressure on the c-pawn. And sometimes there are tactics where you can win the queen, but I just went back to h4. Knight c6 is an interesting development of the knight. It's not usually played in the Queen's Gambit Decline because black is trying to play this move c5 in to challenge white in the center here and get rid of his sort of weakness pawn here because of the open c-file. This pawn can become sort of weak here on c7, and so black usually plays either c6 or c5 to try to challenge or to try to get rid of this weakness. But of course, with the knight here on c6, it takes away the ability of this pawn to move forward. So that's something to keep an eye on. I played h3. Maybe this was a bit of a waste of time for me, but I wanted to stop his bishop from being able to come out to g4. Before I played knight to f3. The thing about when you play the exchange variation of the Queen's Gambit Declined, in the normal Queen's Gambit Declined setup like this, white has a bit of a problem piece, this bishop. It's difficult. Usually it comes out here, but there's got to be something to do with this pawn because it would be hitting up against this pawn, so you have to get rid of this pawn somehow. When you exchange, it frees open this bishop on this diagonal. So you're giving up that sort of trump card that you have with this light square bishop. But where were we? On h3. So the bishop doesn't have f5 because of my bishop here, and now I've taken g4 away. So okay, he can come out to one of these two squares, but I thought these squares were less aggressive for him than these two. So I took the time out just to play h3 because of that. You see this h3 move a lot in most of the mainline variations of the Roy Lopez. So he played the move b5. This is a space gaining move, but first of all, it takes away the only defender left from this knight, which becomes important in a minute, and also makes this pawn sort of weak. It'll be permanently difficult to get this pawn into c5, and it's going to be coming under pressure like this on this C file, and even maybe the bishop here. The other idea on h3, of course, was to give my bishop an escape square here if I needed it. So just develop, and he played g5 here, weakening the king side a lot. A lot of these light squares are now very weak. And I have a bishop that's sort of poised to come in here and take over those light squares. And if he decides to castle queenside, well, he's already started pushing these pawns on the queenside also, and I'd have the G file, the C file to play with, coming in on his king, which would be sitting over here. So I wasn't sure about this G5 move. It looked pretty weakening, aggressive and pretty weakening. And now he tries to grab the bishop, but this was a bit of a waste of time. Okay, I've got this back, and then he played knight to G8, G7, and I thought that this was an interesting move, and it had a decent idea behind it. I thought that the idea might have been bishop f5, just trying to trade off this bishop, and if I decide to get it away, well, okay, he's got the bishop on a nice diagonal here. So, anyway, this was a 1 hour time control game. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. Put that in the title, but I noticed that this knight is undefended, and that if I were to put a rook or something on this file here, that I would be threatening discoveries like this, taking the pawn, and then when pawn retakes, retaking this captured knight here. So that's what I did. Rook to c1. The other thing about rook to c1 was it frees this bishop to come back to b1 if the move knight c4 comes in. I was a little bit worried about this move knight c4 because I want my bishop, my bishop in the long run to be on this nice diagonal pointing at his king side. I mean, it didn't become really relevant in this game, but I thought on knight b4 I'd like to have this move bishop b1, and you want the rook to be already developed so it's not blocked in by this bishop on b1 here. So like if instead of that he played something like this, I wouldn't have been able to go back to b1. I mean, I could have, but it blocks this rook in. So I was hoping he wasn't going to play that, because I'd have to go back to bishop e2, and that's not the best development square really for this bishop, in my mind anyway. So after I played this rook move, I guess he wasn't paying attention to this knight, but he played a pretty aggressive move. He played g4, attacking this knight. The computer told me that knight to e5 was fine here, and after takes, hitting this knight. But I thought maybe you could just play bishop here. Okay, get some trades in, and then like this, and then maybe this, but wins a pawn. But I don't know. I guess I just didn't calculate that close enough. Oh, and the computer's now showing me this pawn is hanging, so maybe that would have been the best move for me to play. I played g takes h4, and okay, he played bishop takes g4, developing the bishop and pinning this knight, and also freeing the g file for him. So if I decide to go kingside, he's got this g file to play with. So we're seeing a little bit of a double-edged position. I've got better development. He's got some weaknesses here in forms of this unprotected knight, this pawn here. His king is still in the center, and this knight is a little bit out of play on g7. But he will have, if I go kingside castle, he will have this g file to swing a rook on and play on, and try to get some mating chances down the way there. I just played bishop e2. Just maybe this wasn't the best continuation, but I think the computer recommended something else. But I just wanted to break the pin and maintain some flexibility with this knight. I still have this threat of knight takes b5, and then followed by rook takes the unprotected knight on the cards. So note that it doesn't work with knight takes d5, because then queen takes, and then he's protecting the knight. So that would just be a piece for a pawn. But knight takes b5 is still on the cards. Although, the other thing I was thinking about was that this a2 pawn was hanging in that line. So I wanted to get in the move a3 before I played knight takes b5. That was another issue. So that, for example, if oh, it's his move. So let's just say he castles or something. I thought that knight takes, knight takes, rook takes here, and I didn't really win anything. So I wanted to get this move a3 in before, so that this pawn would be defended from this rook if I could get this knight b5 tactic in. He played bishop b4, putting a immediate halt to any knight b5s. Okay, because the knight's pinned to the king. And but I thought, okay, I can play a3, get this a3 move in, defending the pawn from the rook for any knight b5 attacks that might come, and he may take anyway and give me the bishop pair, and then I'll retake with the rook, and he'll have to defend the knight or move it, and then I'll just be able to pile up on the knight or the weak pawn behind it with this bishop and rook, and then maybe queen coming in here just to pile up on the pawn. That was my idea with that move a3. He didn't play. He didn't take. He played bishop to b4, and I could have played b5, and maybe that was a stronger move. But I still thought that I could get this knight to b5 tactic in. Excuse me, b4. I still thought I could get this knight b5 tactic in, and with the move b4, this pawn would still be unprotected, or would then be unprotected again from the rook coming down the a files, and the same in the variation before. So, excuse me here, let me just fix these arrows. I played castles, and this was sort of a risky move on my part. Okay, I'm threatening knight takes b5 now, but I'm giving him this attack and this play down the open g file. So, you know, which is going to come through here? His weakness is on the c file, or mine on the g file, or is he going to be able to attack me on the g file? He played the move knight to f5, and so I got in my my knight takes b5. The idea is, of course, if knight takes b5, if pawn takes b5, then rook takes knight, and I've just won a pawn. He took the bishop first. So after I played knight takes b5, he played bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3. I don't think this move was in his best interest. I think it showed later on in the game, as we'll see here, that this bishop was an excellent defending piece and also became an excellent attacking piece at the same time. And with these two bishops here on around my king, I thought, well, okay, I could figure out some way to defend. You know, even if he got his rook and his queen along the g file with something like this, and that all came to fruition. But we'll see. So then he took the knight, and I grabbed the rook, and he played this move, bishop to b6. I'm not sure what the thought behind this move was. I don't know if he wanted to clear some way for his rook on the a file. I don't know what his objective was. But it seems to be doing less on this diagonal than it was on this diagonal to me. So this seems like a bit of a waste of time of a move. So I just decided to play queen to c2, and now I have 3 attackers on this pawn here because of the bishop tucked away in the corner. And we're starting to see that this c-pawn, like I mentioned before, is turning out to be a real weakness for him. He played knight to h4. His idea, I think, was to try to get in the move. Knight takes here, knight takes here, and then rook check, king in the corner, queen's coming in, and it looked a little bit, dangerous for me. So I decided not to give up the bishop. I suppose objectively, when I looked afterwards, the computer said the best move in this position was bishop e2. Sort of hitting this weak pawn here, and maybe getting on a diagonal where it's attacking the king, because of course his king is still in the center, an important feature. I didn't play bishop e2. I played bishop g4 because my idea was after the fairly obvious upcoming queen g5, I would play bishop to h3, defending the mate square, and then if he played, which he did, play rook to g8, I would have bishop to g3, just blocking the square. So this was this was what I calculated, and this all actually came to fruition. And he played the move h5, and the idea behind this move is to play knight check, forcing, well, not forcing, but after pawn takes, he would have the move h4, and this bishop is pinned, so it's lost, and it's removing a defender from my king. So let's say if I were just to make a non-move here, I'll show you the idea. Now the bishop is attacked, and the queen and the rook are coming down sort of dangerously on the g file here. So this bishop is dropping. So I saw all that coming in, but I have a move here in this position, and it's a move thanks to the weakness of a move he played earlier, or I don't know if it was a weakness, and the fact that his king is still in the center. So if maybe you guys want to try to guess to see the very nice move that I played here, and this was the computer found this move also, and I found it during the game. So I'll give you guys a minute here, see if you can figure out what the best move here in this position is. Best move in the position, and the move I played, rook takes b6. An exchange check. The idea behind rook takes b6 is that after c takes b6, I have a very nice move, queen c6 check, where after king to f8, this rook falls, king g7, bishop takes at h4, queen takes h4, and queen takes d5. I calculated that. He's just down a piece. He no longer really has any attack on the g file, and he's down a piece. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A piece and 2 pawns, and these pawns are probably falling in short order. So I calculated that out and thought that was pretty winning for me. What else was possible after queen to g6? And this is the benefit of having playing a 1-hour game where you have time to sort of calculate all this. I'm not quick enough with my calculation to have done this in like a blitz game, like calculating all of this, calculating everything that could happen after rook takes b6 was took about 15 minutes of my time just to make sure and check everything and make sure it worked out okay. So that wouldn't have happened in a blitz game, but you know, there are people who can do that anyway. So after that, queen's other possible moves. Other possible moves are here, king to e7, and after king to e7, then I think bishop d6 is pretty strong, forcing this, forcing king f6, and then comes discovered check with the queen, winning the queen. So that looked pretty strong to me. I think, yeah, after this, he could have played king to d8, but that just that's just mate, not quite mate in 2, but I thought it was mate in 2 for a second because of here and here, but the queen is actually guarding that square. But this rook falls, and then you know, it looks pretty safe for me. I guess I don't remember exactly what that line turned out, but anyway, that looks fine. Other possible moves after queen to c6 check. Okay, this queen to c6 check, the move king to d8 is immediately losing because of this bishop, and this is checkmate. So, what did he play after queen to b6 check? Well, he played this idea anyway. He played knight to f3 check, and I took, and he played h4. Okay, so this bishop is gone is lost in the long run because it's pinned. And now it takes a little bit more accurate calculation, because if I don't play this well, okay, he takes the bishop, and then maybe he takes the pawn, and it could get ugly for me coming down the g-file here with the queen and the rook. So after some more thought, I played queen to c6 check, king to e7, and queen takes c7 check. Okay, he played king to f8, and I threw in this move f4. Okay, the queen has to sort of stay on this this file around in this area because of threats I have of queen d6 and queen here. I thought maybe he'd make a false step, and he did. I'm not sure what the best position for the queen here is. Maybe trying to get this queen trade in, and something like that. I'm not exactly sure. But what he played was queen h5, and this move is I think losing. What happened in the game was queen d6 check, king to e8, and now it's over because of a mate in 3. Bishop d7 check, king to d8, bishop c6 check, king to c8, and queen d7 is checkmate. And the king has nowhere to go. Yes, I found that over the board. It's not that difficult for me. It's not too difficult when you have so much time. I think I had probably 20 minutes on my clock still. I think, okay, obviously king e8 was a blunder. King g7 was the best chance to stay on the board, but I had something prepared for king to g7, because I found pretty quick the checkmate there, and when I was calculating queen to d6 check, I figured he would go to g7, so I would have to come up with something good. And I'll give you guys a second to see if you can find the good move that I found but didn't have to play. The strongest move in the position here is bishop g4, trying to deflect the queen away from defense of this square h6, which is a mate square. Queen h6 is checkmate. The king would have nowhere to go, and trying to deflect the queen away from defense of that square. And the best move in this position would be queen to g6, and then after the queens come off, okay, this bishop has no longer been pinned for a while, so bishop takes h4, and I would be up 2 bishops and 3 pawns to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3 pawns and 2 pieces, and that of course is completely winning. So that was the variation I calculated but didn't have to play, because after queen d6 check, he played king e8, which of course allows this very nice mate in 3. So a really crazy, all over the place game, especially for a Queens Gambit Declined. I was able just to have just enough time to do something in this position. I think maybe if he had gotten castle's queenside in before I could get my queen to c6 check in, it would have been a lot more difficult for me because of all this pressure coming down the file here. But he didn't, and I just managed to get in just enough pressure on his uncastled king. So, sort of an overview here. We had Queen's Gambit Declined with a6 and b5 being played pretty early, leaving weaknesses on the c file. Okay, tucking the bishop away. And finally getting this tactic in, winning a pawn. Now recapturing the knight, and I'm getting some pressure on the c file now. He's going for my king, okay, doing pretty much the only thing he can, just trying to get some pressure on the g file and try to checkmate me, because I'm really crashing through on the c file here. But after h5, I came up with rook takes b6, and he tried some stuff, but it didn't work in the long run. After f4, after queen to h6, h5 here, it was pretty much over, because this was the final blunder. But I wonder, I'm just going to throw the engine on, and let's just see what the engine has to say about queen to e7. says it's recommending queen to e6, attacking this rook. So if it takes, then queen takes a8 check, queen takes d5, gf check, and king f check. So in the end, I'm just up a rook and a bishop. So queen e7 wouldn't have worked either. But he played, anyway, queen h5. That was the engine line that I just went through there. So he played queen h5, and after queen h6 check, made a final blunder with king e8, allowing this very nice mate in 3 combination. So, hope you guys enjoyed that game. Oh, maybe that was a little bit off screen there because of the engine. So, hope you guys enjoyed that game, and I'll see you next time.